Lamer Gamers. This is Lamer Travis for the Lamer Gamers podcast. Unfortunately, Rowdy 5000 will not be here this week, but he has recorded a couple segments with us that are epic and hilarious. Now, in today's episode, we will welcome a new Lamer that hails from a faraway land and is, to be honest, just better than Lamer Travis and Rowdy 5000 because we are console scrubs. That's right, we're including PC gaming news with the most elite of PC royalty, Lord Kromdore. And he will be, very elite. It might get a little ridiculous. Now, today we will be talking about Valheim, the recent Activision layoffs, Auto-HDR coming to Windows Gaming, and Game Pass just got a massive boost on PC. And then we'll end with a news segment about a jousting match between AMD and Nvidia as they battle for superiority in the favor of Lord Kromdore. We'll move on to the Lamer of the Week, where we'll find out who will be the next Lamer of the Week. Will it be Todd Howard, or will it be Lamer Travis? In fact, there's a clip from last week's episode in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Roll the clip!
Next episode. On the next episode of the Lamer Gamers podcast, will Todd Howard be the next Lamer of the Week? According to Bethesda, in the Bethesda Joins Xbox Roundtable, Todd Howard himself claimed that Microsoft supposedly helped fix the problems with Fallout 76. I can't even speak. Now, here is a dramatic reenactment of this event.
Now, with this game launch, the litany of issues we had, we let a lot of people down. There was very little we didn't screw up, honestly. One of the people I called was Phil. And I said, "Hey, Phil, you know there are so many things we're dealing with. What advice do you have?" And he put me in touch with people at Xbox who were able to look at all the systems in our game and determine that what was and wasn't important. And then he compared that to the games that made it in the long haul. That kind of advice really, really helped us. Now seeing 76 being one of the most played games on Xbox, we're just incredibly fortunate to be here with $7.65 million in our $1 billion in our pockets. So,
Lamer Travis will create a new player to crawl out of Vault 76 after the Xbox Series X FPS boost update and put this statement to the test. Will Lamer Travis enjoy himself, or will Todd Howard become the next Lamer of the Week for this potentially false claim? Tune in next week for a special edition of Lamer of the Week to find out.
So that should get interesting. Also, Lamer of the Week will be sponsored by Pappy Clementine's Antifungal Cream. You'll find more about that product here in just a bit. Then, we'll end the show with a special bonus points where we asked a bunch of Lamers on Twitter and Discord the ultimate question, trying to get the ultimate answer. PC gaming or console? And no, the answer is not 42. All this and more on the Lamer Gamers podcast. Now, get ready to kneel down and kiss the ring, because after the break, it's time to introduce the glorious Lord Kromdore as he rides forth to join our show on his water-cooled chariot powered by dual OS Windows and a Linux self-made kernel pulled by a 10,000-watt PSU using overclocked horse robots, each with an Nvidia 38, while wearing a glowing RGB LED crown. Rowdy, hit the music! Hear ye, hear ye! It is time we welcome our Grand Lord Kromdore to the show. Thanks for joining us on this momentous occasion. Hopefully our peasant console gaming show will please the great PC elitist out there. So, Lord Kromdore, hey, welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Lord Kromdore, and I've been wrecking noobs online since the early 2000s.
Ooh.
I may lose a match here and there, but when it happens, I can say in good faith that the other team is full of hackers.
Very true.
What's worse is some of these people will say hurtful things like, "Oh, Kromdore, GG, easy peasy," and "Get wrecked, scrub." I have only one thing to say to these nerds. Reported. Not only for cheating and harassment, but also for international and domestic terrorisms. A little bit about me. I have a professional history in system administration and web development, and am a cryptocurrency enthusiast. I've always liked to tinker around and do things with technology that wasn't necessarily designed for. Every game console I've owned since the original Xbox has been modded in some way. Why do I do this? Because as soon as you feed a device the sweet ambrosia of the Linux kernel, it's no longer a simple console. It has been elevated to the higher echelons of PCism. But don't let these qualities worry you. I'm actually very similar to you console peasants. I just happen to put my pants on 2 legs at a time, and every morning I salute my Steam flag while saying the Pledge of Gabe Newell.
Wait, the Pledge of Gabe Newell. Who is Gabe Newell?
Gabe is the king of all PC gaming.
Oh, Lord. Okay. All right, guys. So, real quick, everybody stand forward. What do we have to point towards when we do this pledge?
Probably your closest Steam friends list.
Closest Steam friends list. Everybody open up your closest Steam friend list, and we are going to recite the Steam pledge together.
I pledge allegiance to the Newell of the United Storefront of Steam, and to the friends list for which it has one market under Gabe with achievements and Steam points for all. Now that we make sure these peasants know the real king of gaming, you can hit your silly news roundup button.
All right, news roundup. It's time for the Lamer Gamers News Roundup. Brought to you by ParallaxMedia.1. All right, guys. So this is a little bit different than our normal news roundup. At the end of each segment, Lord Kromdore will make a decree whether the news has been approved by his lordly self. If he disapproves, somebody must be banished, or worse, they have to play console games. I don't know what we're gonna come up with there, but let's get started. Lord Kromdore, what is our first decree of the kingdom?
Well, my first decree is that we have some knighting to do. With the power invested in me by Gabe Newell, we shall sing the praises of the fabled Cody and Scott, the knights of tech support from iHeartRadio.
Wait a second. Why are we knighting tech support from iHeartRadio? We've tried to get on their platform for like 2 years and nothing's actually happened.
Have you checked iHeartRadio lately?
I have not. Hold up. Oh my gosh. Everybody. We have great news! We are officially on iHeartRadio now. Thank you to the Epic support folks. They apparently just hired at iHeartRadio because I don't think there were real people there. I think they were possibly robots, and they may have been created by Lord Kromdore himself beforehand. But if you get a chance to tell these fine folks thanks, please let us know and give us a subscribe over there.
Enough peasant. Let's get back to my decrees.
Fine, I was just excited. All right, tell us your first decree.
Well, my first decree is about the game Valheim.
What is Valheim? I've heard things about it. I don't know it because I'm a lowly console peasant. It's not on our systems yet.
Now, hopefully, you guys will someday be able to experience the great Vikingness that is Valheim. Valheim is a game. It's a survival game. It's a game where you come in and you are, running around,
doing Viking stuff.
Yeah, doing Viking stuff like hitting trees, running from gigantic trolls, making sure they don't, kill you and eat you, that type of thing.
I'm curious what the Viking, not Viking OnlyFans, that'd be terrible. Like a dating page would say, I enjoy long walks on the beach and hitting trees with my bare fist and
mining copper.
And mining copper and wearing horn helmets.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what it's about. You're just living the Viking life. You're making a beautiful Viking long haul or short haul, if you so prefer.
Doesn't the name mean something, though? It's Valheim. Why is it Valheim?
I believe it is a mixture of Valhalla and Helheim.
That makes sense.
Somewhat sort of purgatory, I believe, and you are trying to prove yourself to,
as most Vikings try to do.
Yeah, trying to prove yourself to the Viking god Odin, who will just...
I do that on a regular basis. I mean...
You'll sometimes see him sit there and just watch you from the shadows, but if you get too close, he just disappears. He's
kind of creepy, honestly. It's kind of like a Viking Santa.
It really is.
Does he give you coal?
Nope.
Or do you have to mine it?
He just watches you. That's all he does.
He just watches you. Creepy. Yeah. So this game, do you have to have like a really big gaming computer, or can it like run on a potato?
It probably can run on a potato. The graphic style is actually somewhat interesting. It's a very low resolution graphic style.
Okay. Low resolution, low poly. Like, I got to look up pictures while you're talking.
I'd probably say low resolution. If anything, it reminds me of the landscapes from the Zelda game on the Wii, the Skyward Sword. You know how, well, if you looked in the distance.
Thanks for making me not want to play this. I think this looks better than Skyward Sword.
Oh, no, it definitely plays better than that.
Looks like Breath of the Wild a little bit.
Kind of, but
not as pretty.
It reminds me, if you remember the graphic style in that game, in the distance, things kind of looked like a painting of a certain type. And that's what the graphic style somewhat reminds me of.
Okay, so it's referencing like a gouache or some sort of watercolor painting, or maybe even oil.
Yeah, that's what, like I said, the textures are a little bit low resolution. I think the game was only like 1.5 gigabyte download.
Well, isn't it like, is it even officially fully out, or are they still consider it in?
It's still
early access.
Early access. So right now they have 5 bosses, maybe 6 bosses that you fight and get through.
Oh, those are some low reses. Or low resolutions. Wow.
Yeah, but it does kind of make for a pretty game. Like as you're traveling about, as you're sailing on your boat.
It's an aesthetic. It's an art style.
Exactly.
I get it. But I honestly just got through playing Valhalla.
Mm-hmm.
Will I be disappointed?
They're completely different games.
Okay, so don't go into this thinking I'm going to be an assassin Valhalla monster guy.
Absolutely. And then I also wouldn't recommend playing this as a single player game. It is not an easy game. You're going to die a lot. You're going to lose your gear. It's kind of like a Dark Souls system. When you die, well, I guess that's not like Dark Souls, but when you die, you drop all your gear and you have to get back to where you were and pick it all back up.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So if you're in the middle of the swamp full of poisonous monsters, good luck.
Well, I mean, League of Legends is a little bit like that too. You die and you drop your stuff, isn't it? Or not League of Legends, not League. Good Lord, the World of Warcraft.
No, that's not.
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of Neverwinter. I don't know PC games. Lord. All right, so Valheim is possibly coming to consoles here in the future. It's been rumored. There is a rumor that it's coming to Game Pass too. How much is Valheim normally? Do you have to pay for it, or is it a free to play?
You have to pay for it. I believe it was. Don't want to give the wrong
it's
price.
At least a crow. You got to get some horns on a helmet. You pay for it with that, and somebody from England. You go and grab somebody from England and bring them back, and that's how you pay for this game, apparently.
Or just give Gabe Newell $20.
$20. $20 is a lot easier.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to go over with Valheim before you give us your decree?
As I said, I would not recommend it if you're doing it by yourself, but if you have 1, 2, 3 other people, definitely recommend. It was a blast to play with my Imperial Court.
Your Imperial Court.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I'm imagining everybody sitting around with a bunch of PCs with their great flowing robes and capes. But they have LEDs strewn through them.
That and everyone had chalices. It was a great
chalices.
Time.
Oh, okay. I forgot to make him a chalice of coffee beforehand. All right, so it is good.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, what is next on our list?
The next thing on here is the Activision layoffs that have happened recently. So I don't know if you've read anything about these, but recently they've laid off quite a number of people. Somewhere between 50 and 190 employees.
Ooh. I have heard that they've done a bit of restructuring, and we talked about that a little bit in a couple episodes ago, where they've moved around some of the Diablo teams.
Yeah, they've moved around some of the Diablo teams. They have left one of the games I do play to die, Heroes of the Storm. I think there's
I like Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah,
I actually like it better than League.
Yeah, me too. I like the faster pace, the leveling system of it. You don't have to know.
So it's just dead?
Yeah, it's been left somewhat in limbo. It's still playable, but they very rarely get updates. And this has been going on for about a year now.
Gotcha.
I think they've introduced like 2 new characters in the last year. So, unfortunately, they've been kind of restructuring, and that is one of the games that have been left in the cold.
So, I'm curious what these layoffs, what are they laying off? Because there was another string of layoffs years before that. It was mostly the advertising team. Is it directly related to a team of developers, or is it something else?
Well, it seems to be a couple different areas in the company. A lot of it is the esports division. I don't think the esports division for their games have really taken off.
Well, I mean, also there was a massive controversy a while back. We had an episode called The Chinese Blizzard where they went through and we talked about how they basically took away the prize money from a person who made a kind of a political stunt against the Chinese government, who, if you look into you look into who owns parts of them, Tencent is very much involved with them. And so they eventually gave the money back and they kind of stopped doing that, essentially. But yeah, so I'm curious if that has anything to do with it, because people are kind of got a bad taste in their mouth from their esports division after things like that, and they have to worry about not saying the right or wrong thing.
I wouldn't be surprised if that...
Well, that nobody can get next to each other.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where a lot of these issues come from, is you can't really have these massive live events anymore.
Yeah.
With the stadium full of people watching, a Call of Duty contest or anything like that. So I think that's where a lot of these layoffs kind of come from, which is, a shame.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything else about the Activision layoffs that we need to know?
No, not anything off the top of my head. It is just, obviously not positive news for a lot of those Activision folks.
So what is your decree for Activision? What do we do with them?
I decree that it is bad to lay off, that many team members. Yeah, obviously. What we do with them, keep an eye on them.
That's it? I was hoping we would banish that Diablo mobile games group.
Oh, I would love to banish that Diablo mobile games group.
Okay, so we have to talk with Gabe Newell apparently before we can get that much power.
Mm-hmm. That's
but
for sure.
we're gonna try to get them banished. Because don't you guys have mobile phones? Don't you guys have them? Yeah, mobile games, right? Okay, so next up on our list, we have, what is the next thing we shall talk about?
The Auto-HDR that has recently come to Windows Insider preview builds.
Ooh.
Actually. So you have to be one of those elite Windows Insiders where you type a couple commands into your machine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Not good enough for us peasants. Although, us peasants have had it already on the Xbox.
Oh, really? You Xbox peasants?
Us Xbox peasants have actually, I don't know how it happened, but we have Auto-HDR on the system, on the Series X and the Series S. And it's pretty cool. That's why I'm really excited about this, because owning a Series X makes me not want to play some of my PC games like the Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds, have you played Outer Worlds yet?
I still haven't played it.
So Outer Worlds is made by Oblivion, and it is basically the people that did New Vegas, Fallout New Vegas.
Right.
And they've made this sort of sci-fi, kind of funny space adventure that's very Fallout-like. And It's super colorful. If you look up the art style, I'd just say type in Outer Worlds, and they are probably some of the best artists who deal with color theory. So me as an art nerd, right? Me as a lowly court painter, I guess, notice a lot of these things, and they never had HDR in the game, which kind of bothered me. It wasn't really that bad because they used their colors in the game very well.
Right.
But now that it's got the auto HDR, that game has just pops. And it's a really cool style choice that's only made better with auto HDR because it's going to make things brighter. You have more contrast within your games. I've actually played Diablo 3, speaking of Activision, has auto HDR on it. Now, you sometimes have to mess with the gamma, and be warned, you probably will have to deal with that whenever the other PC elitist finally... You're the upper echelon, so you'll get that already. But the what's a secondary level of PC elitist? I mean...
I just have one of my servants adjust and tune everything for me.
So the servants, they're better than us all, I guess. The court. So, you'll be able to do this on your PC soon. It's really cool based on what's happening with the Xbox Series X and S. I thought it was part of the proprietary stuff that we'll talk about here in a bit with AMD doing their RDNA 2.0 magic, because there's some stuff that's happening on the Series X that's not happening on the PlayStation 5. PS5 has nothing like this right now. They would have to go back and recode the entire game, whereas Auto HDR is part of DirectX 12, and it can be applied to any PC-related game, apparently. So,
Assuming any PC-related game that runs DirectX 12.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. I think it can be done through the game. It can do on anything, can it? I will have to check that out because I think Auto HDR can just be enabled.
Right. Oh, yeah. I guess because it's happening at the Windows level.
Yeah, it's happening on a level that's
that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And what it does, the way that it works, Lord Kromdore, is it takes a kind of a map of where the luminance is in a regular scene, and then it applies it based on that. So, when you're dealing with luminance, they talk in nits, right? So if you're, have a scene that's, it would expect, I guess, like 150 nits on a certain area, it could tell the computer, oh, well, this needs to be 400 nits, 500 nits brightness. There's a cool thing I'm putting in the chat for you, by the way, so you can kind of see the heat map on that. And how it's compared to, you have Auto HDR, and they've actually shown what Gears 5 Hive Busters looks like with their native HDR, and how their Auto HDR that does it on the fly compares. And it's not perfect, don't get me wrong, and there are some games that they actually don't even let you turn Auto HDR on because the computer just doesn't understand things.
Right.
But in general, I've seen a very positive effect. If you have Geometry Wars or anything that's really hyper-chromatic, whenever it comes to PC, turn that stuff on. It's going to be very, very cool and burn out your eyeballs.
Absolutely. I'd love to see it on Geometry Wars. That's just the most colorful game.
I will let you try my little peasant console later with Geometry Wars.
Well, let's just hope it goes to at least 60 frames per second, because I can't see anything lower than that.
Well, this isn't going to be connected to frames per second, I don't believe. And I am curious, because this does have to run somewhere, right? It's got to take up some sort of engine power. Will this run on a potato? Probably not.
Yeah, highly unlikely. Potatoes aren't known for their lighting systems.
And honestly, and here's another thing that kind of bugs me about the court. I'm going to make a formal complaint. Don't chop off my head. Where is the love for HDR anyway in PC gaming? It almost feels like we are leaving them behind as we form our new nation of peasants.
First off, PC gaming is always ahead. I think that's just...
Is it?
That's how it works.
Not with color.
So you guys are doing some retro HDR thing, and I don't know how we feel about that yet.
Okay, so when you talk HDR, okay, I can go and look for a monitor, and most of them focus on FreeSync or VSync or G-Sync, whatever letter you're going to throw in front of sync. It's the same basic thing, right? There's free, freemium, premium, pro. Oh God, I'd hate to see a VSync freemium. That'd be they throw like little mobile game commercials as they make sure it's refreshing correctly. But why is this taking so long for them to do?
I mean, I think that is actually a good point. A lot of the PC players really concentrate on the frames per second. We want a quick, responsive game. That way, we can make sure that we're aiming at the head properly instead of where the head was 2 frames ago, right?
Okay, so performance over pretty.
Yeah, that, and I think there's also I think just with the advances in TVs, there are so many new TVs that come out with fancier and fancier technologies, whereas with a PC monitor, I guess PC players probably don't upgrade those as much as TVs get upgraded, I'd probably say. Yeah. So, and then on top of that, the monitor names are just someone typing random letters into the keyboard. I don't know if you've ever looked at PC monitor names.
I have. I've tried. I was actually... because I am in the market for a new TV, hopefully sometime soon, and I'm seeing so many people going to TVs as their PC monitors because the TV software and hardware the software built into the TVs is finally getting to what we would expect on a PC.
Yep.
So it seems like they're combining because there's so many gamers now, and nobody's really watching movies anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know my secondary monitor is a huge TV, whereas my first monitor is, I guess, a huge monitor too, though. But they work in tandem and it works great. I love it.
So, Auto-HDR, do you even have an HDR capable thing?
That's the problem with my monitor. I can either have it go up to 144 frames per second, or I can run HDR. So as a proper PC gamer,
gotcha.
I want those frames. Give me them frames.
So give me them frames. So the thing that's really interesting, and this has been a problem with TVs, is that, and this is a problem with OLEDs less because OLED technology is a little bit simpler, even though it produces a better picture overall, because it's just the pixel goes on or off, gives a certain amount of color, light, all that stuff. Whereas LED technology involves your color layer, it involves a light layer, it can involve light from the sides, or it can have different panels of light, and then it has to figure out all that information at once before it displays it on the screen to make sure it looks right. So what happens is with VRR, I guess I should have nerd alerted this guy, sorry about that. With VRR and HDR, it's a bleeding edge combination right now. They can do VRR, but a lot of times your PC monitors are just LED. And then it's having to figure out all those layers simultaneously. And the hardware and the software built into your computer, to your monitors, isn't that good. It usually lets the computer run it. So what happens is if you don't have the FreeSync Premium Pro, it will try to take over all that stuff and try to determine how bright or dark it is, right? Whereas if you had the FreeSync Premium Pro versions of all these VSync technologies, at least I think that's through AMD, it is going to tell your screen what to do because it has more power to figure that out. But it has to be like properly coded with it.
Right.
So that's been a big problem, and it's becoming less of a problem in gaming now. And it should be starting to get figured out too for PC gaming, because we're moving to HDMI 2.1. Which is going to, I think, make things blend a lot more than you probably would expect. I think PC gaming and console gaming are getting really close. But anyway, Auto-HDR, what is your decree?
I think Auto-HDR is great. Anything that gives the person more options is always a positive thing in my book.
But you're still going to choose more frames.
Absolutely. Me personally, but... I'm more of a competitive player than someone who wants to look at a beautiful picture.
I mean, you're always going to hit at least 60 frames per second if you run it at 480p.
Yeah, you are right, but You do need to see a little bit of landscape as well. I like to have more than 17 pixels when I'm looking at someone's head.
Okay. All right, next up. You want to tell us what we're going to talk about next, our final topic for the gaming news?
Yeah,
before we hit the jousting match, right?
Right. The Game Pass for PC has recently gotten quite a bump up in the amount of games that it has on it. As I'm sure you know,
I am very much an advocate of Game Pass. These poor people have heard me go from just Nintendo and PC to Nintendo and Game Pass to majority Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of saddens me. But now Game Pass, I have it on PC too, but I mostly play it on the box over there.
Right.
So what are your thoughts you've just got Game Pass again, right? You went without it for a while?
Yeah, I got it initially, then played the games
Kicked
I
them out,
wanted.
banished them.
Yeah, banished them off my computer, deleted from that hard drive. And then, saw that the EA Play games recently came to it. And so there were some of those games that I definitely wanted to jump in and play because I hadn't gotten around to playing them.
Yeah.
And with so many coming in this convenient package, why not?
Wow, good Lord. I mean, now Game Pass, they just, it's pretty much the same exact games on both now, for the most part. I mean, they're more PC-centric games, but it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I am a little bit upset. I think Outriders, I don't know if you've seen that game.
I have played Outriders on the Series X. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I want to try it. It's not coming to Game Pass on PC from what I've read. So it's only coming on Xbox.
Really? I did not realize that.
So,
I will double check that to see if they've changed it. But go ahead and tell us some more about your experience. Because I will say this. I've tried the Game Pass app. And I haven't tried it in a while because I've mostly been playing on the Series X. How does it run like compared to Steam or some of these other services? How do you like that ecosystem?
It's a pretty nice ecosystem. There are definitely some annoyances I've had. For example, when I go to the all games list, it's not always in alphabetical order. It'll be in alphabetical order, but then some games will be on the F section, but then games from the D section will be in the F section for some reason. Don't know why the folks over at Microsoft haven't figured out their alphabet yet, but it's just an oddity I've noticed. And then I've also have had zero luck with playing any of these EA Play games.
So
online.
is it still that problem? I know it was the other day.
Yeah, still having the same problem. That is one of the fallbacks when it comes to being a mostly PC player. When stuff doesn't work, it falls on you to figure out why it's not working. So, yeah. So I've been toying around with that, trying to get to some of these games because I really want to play some Titanfall 2. I've always enjoyed Titanfall, just never purchased it.
Yes, just I cracked into it.
No, I think they had like free weekends and whatnot.
Oh, okay.
This A Way Out game, I definitely have a friend that's been wanting to play with me on that, where you're going on a prison break with one other buddy, basically.
Okay.
Then they have all the Star Wars games, which
Now the newer one has apparently been really good. I haven't tried it yet.
Squadrons?
No, I tried Squadrons. I didn't like it.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean the Jedi one with the dude, and it's like a Dark Souls and Jedi Fallen Order or something.
Oh, I didn't realize that was necessarily like a Dark Souls type.
It's kind of Dark Soulsian.
I might have to try that out.
Bloodborne-esque.
Working. Yeah.
Make you want to throw your controller type game that I hate.
See, I've been playing the Battlefront 2. Well, I got that free on the Epic Game Store a couple of months ago.
Okay. Battlefront 2, which one is that?
So it is it's made by the people at DICE who make the Battlefield games.
Yeah, it sounds like an old one.
So they had an old one from, I think, 2004, but this is a newer one. They decided to go back to Battlefront and start back at 1, which, game companies don't know how to count. I think that's just a fact of life.
Yeah, but especially Capcom.
Oh, Capcom. And like I said, DICE, they went from Battlefield 1 to Battlefield 5.
Yeah. So I am going to confirm, as of right now, they are not going to have Outriders on PC Game Pass. That is kind of sad. It is cross-play, though.
Yeah.
Which makes me really excited. Now, this was a couple of days ago. I think the thing is here with Game Pass, you never know when they're going to throw something at you that you want. And that it's been one of these really weird things that you would think would be kind of bad for publishers, but it's actually turned into a really profitable thing. They're saying that people who use Game Pass spend 20% more money than a person that wouldn't use Game Pass on various video games. And especially these indie companies that they do their game announcement, they do their Kickstarter, they make money right off the bat, and then they have to make their next game. Well, when they throw it on Game Pass, they all of a sudden get more purchases because they usually put it on sale too on Game Pass.
Right.
So you see a lot of people that end up buying these games. It's pretty interesting. Now, I do want to mention something, and if you are a PC Game Pass player, I have to do what I do whenever I hear good news about Deadfire. Go play Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire Ultimate Edition. It is officially on Game Pass for PC because it's one of my favorite games ever, and it's great, and it's awesome. You should totally play it. I like it. Okay. I don't know if you've heard in our previous episodes, that has to happen. So I want to ask you another question about Game Pass and also about PC gaming in general. What are your thoughts about Bethesda ZeniMax being purchased or acquired by Microsoft?
I listened to your episode about that, and it seems like most people were pretty positive about them being acquired by Microsoft.
Ooh, not PlayStation people.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, not PlayStation people. Oh, no.
Me personally, I'm actually going to side with the PlayStation people. I
Really?
don't like that they got purchased by Microsoft.
Okay.
But that's probably more of a personal view of they're trying to get to a world of 6 corporations running everything.
Yeah, and I do have some issues with that. It is going to be interesting, I think, from a monopoly perspective.
Yeah.
With the fancy mustache and all, that these gaming companies are really not owned by a whole lot of people. And there are a lot of mega gaming companies right now.
Oh, yeah.
But I almost feel like it's the nature of the beast at this point. To make these AAA games, you have to have a lot of resources.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I feel like it might be beneficial finally for Bethesda to have one less thing to try to bug fix, because we all know Bethesda is not the best at fixing bugs. Granted,
True.
Is there any major gaming company anymore that is good at fixing bugs?
I would say there are some companies out there like Bungie. Well, I haven't played a lot of Destiny 2, but
I mean, yeah, Destiny 2 works pretty well.
yeah, it wasn't really too much of a buggy experience. But yeah, you're probably right. Most AAA games
I mean,
have
Ubisoft's
a lot.
horrible now.
are they? Haven't played
Oh
a
my
Ubisoft
gosh. So,
game in a
okay.
while.
So Ubisoft, even my very loved Valhalla, is a buggy mess every time they update it. In fact, they have these new seasonal updates with some sort of festival goes on. It's springtime. Yeah. They have to remove all the content after they release it because it makes Valhalla go to Helheim.
Yeah, I read that. It was causing crashes, I think.
Oh my gosh. I remember whenever they did the winter update, right? And they had all this stuff. I was trying to help this dude become a man because that's what you do as a Viking.
Yeah.
You make people men.
Yeah.
Manly men. And we killed a cow, or he killed a cow, and he was super proud of it. And so he had to follow me back to tell this chick about his lady friend. I'm sorry. His not betrothed, but he wanted to be betrothed. And he followed me, but then he kept staring at a tree. And I'd be like, oh, come on, come with me. Follow me. Get on this glorious Viking boat with me. And he'd just be like, nah, dude. Tree.
I mean, have you seen this tree?
This tree's fantastic. And so I just got so frustrated. And there was another one where your boat would like transport all the way across the world. And you were supposed to bring this bucket to it or something, and you couldn't get to it.
Yeah.
It was terrible. I got so frustrated with it. But yeah, I think very few of them are good. So is there anything you want to talk about Game Pass before you give your final decree over what you think about Game Pass?
Overall, I think Game Pass is great. I definitely would recommend it, and I have recommended it to many friends. But my official decree is that it needs some work on PC at least.
Okay, so it's working in the stables right now.
Yes.
Trying to clean up its mess.
Yes. It is too busy just sniffing on horse manure, and it needs to...
Sniffing on horse manure.
Yeah.
Glorious. I feel like this is Rowdy. Rowdy just showed up. I don't know if you listen to how Rowdy rates things, but they always involve that kind of system. All right, guys. Now, it's time for something a little different. I've decided I'm going to entertain our Lord of PC Gaming, and I've arranged for a jousting match between House AMD and House Nvidia. So we're going to talk about and have them send out their most honored knights, their newest ones too. Knight from from Nvidia DLSS 2.0 and the Knight Fidelity FX Super Resolution. Some very oddly named knights. But let's take a look at these competitors and see how they stack up next to each other in this first round of the 2021 PC Gaming Tournament. So this will happen more in the future, I think, with jousting tournaments. But let me tell you, oh Lord Kromdore, about Nvidia DLSS 2.0. Now, you know a little bit about this already, but we do need to explain it for these poor console peasants that listen to our podcast. Nvidia DLSS is Deep Learning Super Sampling. Hopefully I have that right. And 2 is the second one. Yeah, it's 0.0, right?
Right.
But it is actually an open source thing that they created quite a while back, and it had some issues. I know you probably looked at it and nobody was really doing anything. This is like, 2 years ago or a year and a half? But since then, people have kind of worked on it, and the concept of deep learning means that it is AI that's basically training itself or figuring things out. Okay. And it has recently been in many jousting matches against other things like, what are some things that you can click on the little bar and some aliasing, like SSAO and all those other fancy terms I can't think of to make your picture look better.
I'm not sure.
Either way, it's better than those, and it won, and it slaughtered them. It just made a pointy end of the joust go. It was bad. So also, it's available. You can find it on a lot of games now. It used to be the game had to be coded directly for it, and you would have to train the computer by taking pictures, essentially, all throughout the game's levels of things it could potentially see at a certain angle. So now it actually works without having to do all that. And its main job, if you don't know what it does, it can take an image that is like 1080p or 480p even, and then bump it up to 4K. It basically goes at it, it looks through it, it puts it back together in a fancier way. They've actually done a little bit of this recently, too, on videos online where they're taking the Rickroll song. They took the Rickroll song. Yeah, they took the Rick Astley song. And they decided that they were never going to give it up, never going to let it down.
Absolutely.
And they turned around and made it in 4K. Is what they did. So they've redone that whole video to where it's 4K and you can find it on YouTube. It's very interesting. With technology like this, very much in that deep fake-ish kind of AI that we have is pretty much what DLSS has turned into. It is customizable. It has quality, balance, performance modes. It's got a lot of different things. And it's just generally pretty cool. And I think you were... I swear, I was telling Lord Kromdore about this before the show. And he's like, oh, I have one of these fancy graphics cards. I haven't messed around with it much. I'm going to remote into my freaking computer from my phone. What were you doing on your stinking phone? Tell us what your fancy...
Well, I just have a...
Fancy stuff is.
I have a VPN set up on my phone, so I just connect it to my VPN and then, remote into my computer through a VNC protocol. And then just went and checked the GeForce experience and, the different options in it to make sure it was enabled and to see what games I had that because it's not available for all games. So
Right.
I had to check through my gaming list and see what games I had available for it. Because that's one of the benefits of being a PC player.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think my Steam list has like 500 games in it now.
Lord. I mean, mine probably does too because I did Humble Bundles.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, hold on. We're jousting a little bit back and forth. I can go on the Xbox app and install things on my Xbox from here. Ooh.
That sounds like some 2010s technology.
Fantastic. Okay, so that is our first competitor. He has been ripping up. In fact, these cards that have been selling, the Nvidia's 3060, 3070, 3080, they dropped the price on those massively, and they have all this technology on there. And it does require specific technology. You need what's called a tensor core.
Yeah.
You're like, yes, I know what a tensor core is.
Well, playing around with, Python projects and whatnot. I've done upsampling myself a little bit, and yeah, those tensor cores really do help a lot when it comes to these type of machine learning programs.
Gotcha. So that is our first competitor in the jousting match. Our next one coming in is really new. It's a bit of a rookie. It's AMD's Super Fidelity FX, which is a mouthful. I mean, good Lord. Now, this is a closed source thing, and it has been worked very closely with Microsoft, from what I understand, especially on their consoles, which it's actually going to be part of their consoles. Now, I do have to say, I was going to say that they are riding in on a Trojan horse, mind you, because I think that you might be surprised by Fidelity FX and some of their other things that they're doing, and it's going to benefit consoles, but it's not ready yet, right? But there are rumors. The Nintendo Switch, the new Nintendo Switch possibly coming out in the fall, is going to use DLSS.
Right.
Which would be bonkers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you could push out a 480p image to DLSS 2.0, or maybe it'll be 3.0, who knows what they do with numbers anymore. They'll probably call it DLSS 12, just for fun.
Probably. Well, that's if it's left up to a gaming company. The
that is true.
Crazy.
I'm still having a hard time believing they're going to do it. So there's a potential, that they could swing this one out and stab the other company. But either way, we are going to see this AMD Fidelity FX, and they have AMD Radeon Boost that is also included in this. That Boost is available right now, but Fidelity FX says that it will do contrast adaptive sharpening, denoiser, it'll do variable shading. So variable shading has actually been really important. Have you ever heard of that? So basically, let's say you're playing a racing game, right? Okay, nerd alert, guys. Nerds.
Racing games are for nerds.
Yeah, racing games are for nerds. So when you're racing, your car is going to be very fine detailed, right? You need to see that car in fancy detail with all of the shiny things.
Yeah.
But as the world's flying by you, it would be okay to put a little bit of motion blur, right?
Right.
And they're probably throwing motion blur on there. Well, what happens is it recognizes that, I don't necessarily need to render all these pixels with extreme fidelity.
Right.
So I'm going to use less horsepower and maybe render these in 4 pixel blocks with a blur attached over it versus the car, which has to be rendered perfectly.
Right.
And so it senses when movement is happening, and then they use this actually on Gears 5. They're also going to have better ambient inclusion, screen space reflections, which is not ray tracing, which that's something we didn't mention. DLSS is allowing ray tracing to be used far more often. And then there's the thing called super resolution, which is supposed to be the answer to DLSS 2.0, where they essentially do the same thing. It's a machine learning kind of thing that it sends a smaller image, the machine redoes it. And so also, they have the boost technology that's built into this. This is already being done on Borderlands 3, allowing a boost of Frames per second, it allows up to 66 performance gains during fast movement.
That's always a positive in my book, more frames.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what's going on. Now, I think it's time to fight. Are you ready to see this epic match?
Bring forth the fighters.
Bring forth the fight! Wait, hold on. AMD's not ready? What do you mean AMD's not ready? We've been waiting. We brought Lord Kromdore here to come see the fight, and he's going to be very unhappy with us. He may banish us. Okay, hey, Lord Kromdore, I got something to tell you. We have a winner.
I haven't even seen anything.
Okay, so AMD Super Fidelity FX Super Resolution is not ready yet. So we'll have this jousting match possibly later in the year. I don't know where they are. I think they were using Apple Maps, which makes no sense because they're PC-centric. But who even knows what AMD is doing nowadays, personally?
Actually, on the side note, that new Apple CPU is actually pretty impressive, believe it or not. I don't know if you know anything about that, but
I know nothing about this.
It's actually interesting. I guess as a little side note, it had better frames per second on Dota 2 than the Windows like Intel based processor. It's actually intriguing. I'm interested to see where Apple's going to go with it. They actually might come forward and have a better CPU pretty soon.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. We have a winner. Do you want to go ahead and do the honors and declare it?
Yeah, I'd declare the winner to be the only one that showed up. The Nvidia DLSS 2.0. It's open source. I mean, that's positive, definitely, in my book. And like I said, it actually showed up to the jousting match. So it obviously is the winner.
All right, guys. That is it for the Gaming News Roundup. Now, it is time for the Lamer of the Week. The Lamer of the Week is sponsored by Pappy Clementine's Antifungal Cream. Listen to this commercial by the good doctor on this life-changing product that may just get you through the disease of Fallout 76.
Don't you mean diseases?
No, I do not.
Why, welcome, folks. I didn't see you walk in. I'd like to welcome you to West Virginia's finest washateria, gun shop, and health clinic. My name is Dr. Theophilus T. Wellington III, Esquire, M.D., but you could just call me Skeeter. I'm the proprietor of this here fine establishment. It was passed on to me from my grandpappy, General Cornelius Clarence Clementine IV. He built this business from the ground up with his own two hands. It started as a taxidermy business for people who wanted to mount all the rad roaches and ghouls that they had brought in. But he really struck it big when he created Pappy Clementine's antifungal cream for the burning jock inch and athlete's foot on account of all the scorchers out here in West Virginia. Now recently, we've seen an uptake in our patient numbers. People keep saying that some fancy schmancy richy rich company called Microsoft bought a company called Bethesda for around 7 billion bottle caps. Now, all them business deals don't mean much to a small town doctor, taxidermist, firearm salesman, and astronaut like myself, but it does look good for my bank account. You see, since this hoity-toity business transaction, there's been a lot of people talking about playing some games called Skyrim, Dishonored, Wolfenstein, and Fallout 76. All these new patients we've been seeing are people who have been playing the game Fallout 76. These people come in sicker than a three-legged ghoul with the Nuka flu. They walk into the clinic saying things like 4K and 60 FPS. That's nonsense to us backwoods folk. Upon further examination, some of these people have admitted that this is their second or third time visiting this part of Appalachia. They're talking about making new characters while twirling their curly mustaches, whatever that means. A A lot of them been walking around real funny like, clipping through my walls, suddenly changing clothes, twitching around the room. It's almost like they're drunk or something. So, after much research, I've come up with a name for this disorder. I call it Appalachia Ataxia. Now, ataxia is a fancy word for a neuron disorder that emulates being drunk. It's a degenerative disease that causes slurred speech, uncoordinated movements, stumbling, falling, and that's just some of the symptoms of this disease. Now, with more people gaining access to Fallout 76, we're going to see a dramatic rise in Appalachia Ataxia cases. So, if you or a loved one are suffering from Appalachia Ataxia, make sure you come on down to Pappy Clementine's Washateria Gun Shop and Health Clinic. Be sure to bring plenty of caps, because there's no such thing as insurance in the wasteland. Oh, and don't forget to buy some ammo on your way out. Tell them Skeeter sent you and you'll get 1% discount on your lowest priced item. And now, back to the Lamer Gamers podcast.
All right, guys, so it is time we talk about Fallout 76. Now, I told y'all last episode that I was going to try it, and I told some friends and tried to get them to join me, and they were all like, no, absolutely not. Nothing would make me want to play this game again. What in the world are you thinking? It's like a disease in a little bit, right? Well, here's the thing. What happened was that basically Todd Howard said in an interview, and if you listened at the beginning of the episode, we played a clip that we kind of made fun of Mr. Howard a little bit. Rowdy took that. That's not how it originally sounded, but it wasn't too far off, but he just made it fantastic. But the thing is, he said that he reached out to Microsoft, and this is probably where part of the deal with Bethesda and Microsoft happened. He reached out to them, and they helped him make the game better, is what he claimed, being one of the most played games on the Xbox consoles. And I thought that was a lie, because I've tried this game. Every time there was a major update, because I played it, it came with the 1X, whenever I got the 1X originally. And I tried it. I did not like it. I gave it the old college try. Just didn't like it at all. It was not fun, was really empty, boring, and lacked NPCs. And whenever I play a Fallout game, I want to be kind of a loner and help people, I guess, and go through those little stories. And the game tried to tell the story very passively. You'd like find notes and stuff. And here's the thing, guys. Was Todd Howard right? Is this game fun? Is Fallout 76 worth getting and playing? Yeah, it is. It's actually really fun. So, today, I, Lamer Travis, need to apologize to Todd Howard because I was wrong for doubting Todd Howard after he's repeatedly told us that Fallout 76 is great for like 2 years. I mean, those previous couple years weren't great. In fact, it was pretty terrible. There was nothing to do, no NPCs for a long while, and when they did add NPCs, they weren't very interesting, as I was just saying. The game also had a penchant for, murdering you needlessly over and over. They didn't pay attention to what level you were. Things didn't level up with you originally. And you could just be walking down the road and some random roach just jumps on your back and feasts on your flesh or your brain, because that's a thing. And then all the things you expect not to shoot you. So it wasn't very fun. But now they actually level up with you, and it's actually really fun. And that's a big part of MMOs, I think. You need some level scaling here to some extent. Because it wasn't very clear where it is safe and where it is not. You could be in an area that was, had some little scrub characters, and then you walked the wrong way and you're murdered straight up. So, it kind of made me question my love for all things Bethesda, and actually Fallout 76 probably ruined the brand for years to come. But he was finally right. Finally right. He was right that Fallout 76 does have lots of things to do now. You honestly can't walk for a couple of minutes without finding something new to do. An NPC that will chat with you, or real-life people that are probably a little desperate for human attention, because it's been pretty empty there. They'll actually dance around you in circles making emotes as they drop bags of goodies for you. It's kind of nice. Honestly, the game's very approachable for a noob or a lamer right now. And a large portion of that is because the Fallout 76 community is fantastic. I reached out on the subreddit FO76 and was immediately swarmed with suggestions when I asked, how does help a lamer out? How do you enjoy Fallout 76? What makes you want to go back to it? So, and I got some tips, but honestly, there were still some people that said the story sucked. But the gameplay is fun. The community is good. Now, here's the thing. While I'm apologizing to Todd Howard, and I do have to respect the guy. He's done stuff that I could never do. I mean, he's gotten these massive games kind of done with his with Bethesda. I mean, he is a fantastic person. We are having a little bit of fun with this. Keep in mind, it's not out of disrespect. Even though it does come off as a little disrespectful. But, so here's the thing. This is not completely the work of Mr. Howard, though. I think he has kind of gone down the path of profit that looked at mobile games and MOBA games and MMOs and massive online games. And I think there is a connection between Fallout that could work. And I think what they're doing is working now. That being said, you probably need to play this games at 60 frames per second. I know we have this episode. I don't blame it on Lord Kromdore. Okay, we do have a PC elitist, but I will say the enjoyability has been affected by the frame rate here, and there is a reason. Okay, and I'm not even saying that this game is playable at 4K, because it's honestly not. So the FPS boost on the Xbox Series X is what I was waiting for. It allows me to choose 60 frames per second, but it drops it down to 1080p. Now, I hope in the future they kind of make a better middle ground, maybe bump it up to 1440p, because there is a way you can trick the system into going 4K 60 frames a second, but it's still kind of rough. It's better than 30, better than what it was, but it's still rough. Well, the thing is, when it's 60 frames per second, this game is very dependent on you being able to shoot. The VAT system is not going to help you. If you're like me, you played all these games in 30 or sometimes sub 30 when your computer decided it was going to try to play it. All the Bethesda games that are this kind of genre, the big open world ones. And you could rely on things like VATs, and you really can't in this game. Okay, you can up close. Surprisingly, it works really well. Now, also, the gunplay is better than Fallout 4 in this game. Just going in and zooming in with a sniper rifle or something feels really good in this one comparatively. So, play it at 60 frames per second. I'm sorry for those of y'all that are on the PlayStation 5. If you don't have access to that, I would stray away. If you're on PC and you can get it at 60 frames per second, I mean, if you're running a potato computer and you got to put it at 480, maybe it's playable. Who knows? But at 1080p at 60 frames per second, this game is fun. Todd Howard, I am sorry you were right, but I have... it's like they've given this game a stim pack to the heart for me. I enjoyed it. I want to go back and play it. I will probably play it, even though my friends are making fun of me. The other lamers that have been on this show, Mom, Gunslinger, even Rowdy 5000, think I'm crazy. And you know what? Maybe I'm a little bit crazy, but I have given Fallout 76 so much hell on this show. For me to come out and say this game is fun and you should play it again, give it a second, third, or fourth shot, that's a lot. So, I will say too, you can play it like a single player game, which is really nice. That's kind of how I've been playing it. But if you do link up with people, which they make it really easy and everybody wants to help you and it's fun to go do an event, they give you perks. They give you bonus like to intelligence or, depending on the type of team you make. There's all sorts of reasons to group up together. That's really fun. So in the midst of all that, with everything I've said, it's official. Our Lamer of the Week is Lamer Travis. It's me for not believing Todd Howard when he's said over and over that Fallout 76 is a good game. All right, guys, maybe I do have a disease. Maybe there's something wrong with my head. But thanks, Todd, for fixing it.
Hello, fellow Sony fan and PlayStation 5 owner. I'm Rowdy5000, co-host of the Lamer Gamers podcast and resident Sony fanboy. I want to welcome you to my tutorial on how to transfer your saved data from the wonderful game made by our friends over at Crystal Dynamics, Marvel's Avengers. Now, I'm sure you've had some similar frustrations when it comes to cross-save data, and after reading all the instructions put out by Crystal Dynamics. But fear not! I'm here to walk you through the process of moving your data over. Now, first off, you must be a PlayStation Plus subscriber. If not, you'll have to subscribe so that you have access to the cloud save option. If you're not already a member, you could pick up a 1-year subscription for the low price of $59.99. That's just $5 a month. That's a steal at that price. Now, at this point, once you are subscribed, you can enable cloud save in the PlayStation Plus options on your PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 4 Pro system. Once that's enabled, make sure all the save data you want uploaded has a check by it, especially your precious Avengers save file. You can manually upload the data at this point if you would like. I'm sure all the super fans like myself already had these steps completed, am I right? Now, start up your PlayStation 5 console. Isn't that beep the system makes on startup so soothing? Now, if you haven't already done so, make sure you have downloaded Marvel's Avengers from the PlayStation Store. Now that that's done, move to the Avengers icon on your crossbar menu and hit the Options button, or the Start button as the plebs would call it. Now, here's the most important part, so please pay attention. Scroll down to Delete, then press the Cross button, or the X button again for you plebs. This will bring up a prompt, making sure you know that the game or app will be deleted. I cannot stress this part enough. Make sure you click OK so the game is deleted. That's correct. Delete this game from your SSD. Now, with the freed up hard drive space, make sure you download and play Bugsnax, a far superior game.
Grapple, 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 grapple. Scorpiño, scorpiño, scorpiño.
Raspy.
Thank you for tuning in to this Lamer Gamers tutorial, and we'll see you next time on Lamer Gamers tutorials for lame gamers playing lame games.
It's time for some bonus points. Hopefully you enjoyed that lovely tutorial on how to use your cloud saves / delete the game. Anyway, we've asked a whole bunch of lamers on Twitter and Discord the following question: PC gaming or console? Now, we also have back the incredulous Lord Kromdore to help us answer this question. So, let's get your thoughts. By the way, I can kind of guess where your answer's going here. But what is the better thing? PC gaming or console, and why?
I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that PC gaming is better 100% of the time.
Okay.
100%
of the time. 100% of the time.
Yeah, I think it's a fair
What about if
estimate.
I'm on a trip going to Colorado?
Gaming laptop, easy.
Oh, God.
Just don't burn your legs. Try not to, at least.
Just don't burn it. Cook something at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily, pretty soon we'll have that KFC gaming console, so
That is very true.
I can't wait to be warming up some chicken.
But is that really I guess it is a PC console.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It actually, like, if you look into it, it's not that bad of a setup.
We have episode 2.
Yeah.
Got wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think it's better.
Mhm.
What makes it just 100% though? Like what?
I mean, it's better for 100%. I would say you just have more options when it comes to graphics. So
Okay.
you can try to have a smoother running game when it comes to video options if your computer's up to snuff and whatnot. Another big proponent is just mods. I love playing with mods on a lot of my games. So being able to go in and change up how the game works is always can provide some interesting outcomes. For example, the Just Cause multiplayer. I don't know if you've ever played Just Cause 2. I think it's Just Cause 2. Like, modders just came in and added a whole multiplayer component that wasn't part of the base game at all.
I know there are some games that literally come from a mod and they redo it.
Oh yeah, like Dota or League of Legends. That whole genre comes from a Warcraft 3 mod.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. So, all right. So, is there anything else you want to say before I move on to my thoughts?
PC number 1. That's all I got to
PC
say.
number 1. He decrees
It
that
is
PC
decreed.
is number 1. Okay. All right. So my thoughts are, I'm honestly I'm a 90-10 split. Okay. 90% of the time it's going to be console gaming. To me, it is comfort. I play video games for the concept of escapism. My work is super, super stressful. It's very multifaceted. I get stupid by the end of the week.
Right.
If we were to recorded yesterday, Mr. Kromdore, I'm sorry, Lord Kromdore, you would know, because my brain would have been burnt out. But whenever I come home, I don't want to go sit on an office chair with a very specific position with a mouse and a keyboard and then be in a mode that puts my brain into work. Because I work a lot on the computer, even though I teach. My admin job is tons of computer work. Honestly, teaching right now. While drawing, I'm doing that on a computer. Also, it is my creative outlet area. So I then treat that as a workspace too. So in my mind, and this could just be me though, it doesn't feel like I'm playing a game. Honestly, the type of games I'm going to play here, I'm going to play CRPGs, and I'm going to be playing RTS games, which aren't escapism.
Right. And yeah, and I'm sure you probably would play some of those on console. They don't necessarily transfer that well over to console. RTS in particular.
They do not. And I've been trying. I've been trying on the Game Pass. There are some fantastic CRPGs, like the best game ever, Deadfire, that are on the Series X, and just use a mouse and let us use a mouse and keyboard on some of these.
Yeah.
And the thing that kills me is the Xbox Series X is really just like a glorified computer. And that's where I'm a little ambivalent here.
Right.
Because I really enjoy this stinking console. But it's really just a computer.
Well, it's really just a computer. It is a shame that you can't hook up the mouse and keyboard, but I think that
you can, just not all games support it.
Right, it gives an unfair advantage. The mouse is
I think they're actually trying to do more unfair advantage.
Yeah.
Not to gyro sometimes.
Right.
Actually, I do wish they had gyro, and I know somebody's going to be like, pleb, mouse and keyboard all the way.
Well, not in Dark Souls. That game's terrible with mouse and keyboard. I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah. See, that's another thing. I really like the movement of an analog stick.
Yeah, I really wish they would make a keyboard with an analog stick. I'm surprised they haven't made something like that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I think so.
We need to make this. Okay, but anyway, so, that's where I'm at with that. But also, the biggest problem I think I have are the woes of FOMO. You know what FOMO is?
Yeah, fear of missing out.
The fear of missing out. And what happens is I build a fancy computer. I spend way more than I would for a console. Next week, a new one comes out with a new graphics card with more RAM or another variation of the same freaking graphics card with the fancier pipe on it or something. like aluminum pipes, or maybe this one's copper, or maybe it's water cooled.
Right.
Maybe there's goldfish floating in this one and it's just cooking them over time. I don't know. There's so many variations. It's almost like too much for my stupid peasant brain.
There are definitely a lot of variations, but that's also a benefit. The fact that you can just replace that one part in the computer instead of completely rebuilding the
I'm
entire
very
thing.
familiar with this, as you are currently using my Frankenstein computer.
Yeah.
There are parts in that are probably at least a decade old. It's an RX 480 and then an AMD FX 8350 for the CPU, and 16 gigs of RAM, and about 1,200 hard drives that have gone from various computer to various computer.
Oh, I know that. I
Yeah.
know that experience.
So that's the thing. I was using PC gaming as it wasn't the excuse. It was always I needed a graphics making computer. Like that screen is one I could draw on. Well, nowadays they have these fancy little tablets like this little thing I'm using over here that do all the stuff that I need it to.
Yeah.
So I don't have an excuse anymore.
I can see that.
There's some stuff going on with these new consoles that I think outshines what's going on with PC at the time, but now they're adding Auto-HDR. They're adding all this other stuff for somebody that just wants to sit back and play a game. So who knows? I think things are blurring a lot, and I think also the fact that Game Pass is both a PC and Xbox thing. I think Xbox is trying to become this like Swiss Army knife of gaming that blurs the line.
They are trying to bridge that gap, definitely.
Now, I will have to say, though, the biggest problem and the biggest reason why I'm not a PC gamer, I'm a huge fan of Bethesda games. I honestly got into PC gaming from old school, like, Fallouts. Well, I mean, Fallout 3, not the old school one. Somebody's going to be like, well, Fallout 1 and 2 were really better games, and they're older.
You know, if you put your intelligence at 1, you're too dumb to talk on Fallout 1.
Yes. Now, I will say Outer Worlds, which is made by the people that do New Vegas, you can play as a dumb character, and it's hilarious.
I bet.
But anyway, so Fallout 4, I think, killed my love for PC gaming. Because I tried to run it and it would just never work.
Yeah.
There were bugs. It kept crashing all the time. And then I got the brilliant idea, I'm going to crossfire these two graphics cards. Do not crossfire in Fallout 4 at the same time. Friends don't let friends crossfire in Fallout 4 at the same time because things will break.
Oh, yeah.
So I tried that, gave up on that. I still haven't even finished Fallout 4 because I feel like I've been slapped around by it. But so it's just, I've had too many issues with it, and with my job, I'm not dealing with it. I can hop on the game. I could throw a Nintendo Switch in my laptop bag and go play video games. I could come home and go badoop badoop, and then it's on the TV at the couch. So I'm definitely a console gamer, but I do see why the glorious PC elitists like their fancy little boxes.
But what if you want your console to display 65,000 different color combinations that just brighten the room with RGB?
You can do that on a TV. It's just expensive.
Yeah,
Probably cheaper than buying another PC that does it.
Like my computer likes the RGB all over the place. And it likes to keep me up at night because it's just constantly.
You don't turn it off?
No, I put it into sleep mode, but that RGB persists and just wants to let me know that, hey, there's a whole color spectrum.
You should see all these colors. They're fantastic.
Right.
Oh, man. All right. So at this point, we should have a recording from Rowdy 5000. Take a listen to what his answer is.
What's up, Lamer Gamers? This is Rowdy 5000. You know, the other guy from the Lamer Gamers who's kind of not here this week. I have to work a lot, and I'm not going to be able to be on this week. But I was able to record some commercials, and I get to answer the bonus points question this week. And it's the age-old question, PC or console? I have to pick console. I understand that with PC, you can get the best looking graphics. But I'm not a tinkerer. I can't put together a computer myself, and any store-bought computer is always going to be a piece of trash. Basically, you could run, late 90s, early 2000 games on pre-built PCs. But, yeah, I'm just not a tinkerer. I had my brother build me a PC one time, and it was really good for, 2 months. Then I put, what was it? A GTX 980 Ti graphics card in it. At the time, that was the biggest, baddest graphics card you can get. Well, guess what came out 3 months later? The GTX 1080. So, I can't keep up with all that. And I spent more on my GTX 980 Ti than I did on my PlayStation 5. And you know what happens when I download a game and play it on my PC? I mean, my PS5? It works. That's right. It works. You know how many times on PC I've downloaded a game and it couldn't work? And then I have to look up on the internet. I have to see if I have the right drivers. I have to see if I have the right settings for my monitor. Come on. No, I just plug everything up to my TV and it plays in glorious 4K, 60 frames per second. Well, okay, maybe not all the time, but you get what I'm saying. I don't have the time to deal with everything. I just need it to work. I'm not super tech savvy. So, that is what I have to say about, the bonus points this week. I am not part of the PC master race. I prefer my consoles. Switch, PS5, Xbox. Yeah, I'm out on that PC stuff. I only keep one around to play real-time strategy games because you can't play real-time strategy with a controller. So I guess that's going to be it for me. And hopefully I will be on the next podcast. We'll have to see when my work schedule comes out. All right, now back to the Lamer Gamer Show with Lord Kromdore. And, oh my God, Travis, I almost forgot your new name. Lamer Travis. Sorry about that. All right, back to you guys.
All right, so we have no comment because that hasn't happened in real time. Rowdy will, it was fantastic, Rowdy. Good job.
I'll just say if he didn't side with PC, then he's wrong.
Oh, he didn't.
Well,
I'm pretty sure that he said that console games just work. I'm pretty sure that's what he was summing up because that's kind of what we've been talking about because we're poor PC peasants that are too simple.
I mean, I think you could say that except for Cyberpunk. That barely works.
On PC? Oh no, Cyberpunk is a mess on
That's what I'm saying for console.
All about the Series X. It is playable on the Series X. However, it doesn't have ray tracing enabled just yet. It still needs the next gen update.
It looks so beautiful, ray tracing. I didn't have any issues actually playing it on PC.
I didn't have any issues actually. Well, let's see what a bunch of lamers online said. We're going to go ahead and start with Japan Lover 79, who says, "I like my PC because I built." You know what? Let's do this. You're going to read the PC ones. I'm going to read the console ones, and we'll see who does more work. You want to tell us what Japan Lover 79 said?
Yeah, I like my PC because I built with my own two hands. But I do prefer console gaming for the sheer reason that games on PC have a tendency of not working right due to some setting being switched off or part malfunctioning. Where console games, you pop the game in and it works 95% of the time. And when something doesn't work, the devs are the ones that you have to go to do the troubleshooting, not you.
That's a pretty good point. I think that's kind of what you were saying earlier too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. With the Game Pass, yeah, I have to contact the Microsoft help and then the EA help because it's the EA games that aren't working.
Yeah. Now I will say this: there is something really cool about building your own PC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then there's really something not cool about whenever something breaks.
Well, anytime you build your own PC and then it boots on the first time you press the power button without having to go back in and change the jumper wires, that's a PC blessing. It's the greatest feeling in the world.
The PC blessing. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Next up is a console winner. At _Goomba, Tony Coffee on Twitter says console, since they get the games I want to play first most of the time. That's a Nintendo gamer right there, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but
yeah.
Sony has some fantastic first-person titles.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sony has... they just had the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I want to play so bad.
Well, it is coming to PC and Xbox.
And they also have Ghost of Tsushima, which, man, I really want to play that.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, Rowdy, that was like his game of the year last year. He loves chasing birds and foxes and finding fantastical things.
I really want to play it. I just don't want to shell out the $500 for the PlayStation or however much it is. I don't even know how much it is.
500 is about right. If you buy it from a store, good luck, haha. But if you buy it from some shady dude in a back alley, it's probably going to be $700 and you'll never get the console.
So instead, I'd rather shell out $1,500 for a PC.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
All right, next up is Anthony Shelton at I Am Shelton, who is... he is working with Gaming Trend, doing their YouTube work. He says console. It's less hassle. If something doesn't work, you don't have to figure out if the latest system update changed anything or play with settings forever to figure out optimal performance. There's a lot to like about PC gaming, but console convenience wins for me. Now, I do have to say, these newer consoles, I almost feel like I have to do system updates all the time.
Right.
Because they're just fresh.
That, or sometimes you can't even play the game until you do the update.
Well, with consoles, not so much.
Yeah.
But I do agree with him there, and that's pretty much what I was saying too. I agree with you. Do you want to get the Sick Boy Lounge, which is, why is this not popping up? At the Dead Boy Lounge podcast host. He's at Sickboy21.
He's always enjoyed both. PC can't be beat for performance, but you tend to get better value for your dollar with consoles. So they both have their positives and negatives.
Yeah, I mean, performance-wise, if you spend $12,000 and, all sorts of things like that, that's definitely true. Mm-hmm. Next one is Hammer Fist Gaming at Tech It to the Max, which I believe can also be found on Twitch. Says... The barrier to entry for consoles is much lower than PC. I love the graphical advantages of PC, among other things, but upkeep can be costly. If your goal is to pick up and play, then consoles all the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, consoles definitely are easier to pick up and play, that's for sure. You don't have to worry about all your system updates. Well, I guess you have to worry about your system updates, but...
Yeah. All right, next up is Paranoid Android at Voxel Hero, who is one of the hosts from the Total Set podcast, says, I play on console most of the time. Thank you, peasant, for your service. Next up, let's go ahead and get to the next round. We have... looks like I'm still reading. Omega C Studio, who is a fantastic artist at Omega Carotene on Twitter, says mostly consoles and portables, but I do pop up on Steam every now and then. I'm just going to keep reading. The Heckin' Call podcast. Hold on. I'll read the first part, you read the second part. How about that? Okay. Console, because it's cheaper and console exclusives.
PC to play with friends and the Steam store.
So I love this one. Now, this is in Spanish, but it shows the little GIF with the girl that they all throw up in the air and says, why not both? But it says, instead of why not both, ¿por qué no los dos? So, very cool. Thank you, the Heckin' Podcast, or Heckin' Call Podcast. Next up is Zelda for Elders, which runs a podcast designed for baby boomers who play Breath of the Wild with cocktail pairings. Very interesting. I love the very specific nature of that podcast. They say total consoles here. I mean, gaming elders.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with cocktail pairings. So.
Yeah, exactly. Next up is Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective podcast, which is at WDGR Podcast. Says, we're console guys, but every once in a while, you got to fire up a PC game. I would agree that strategy games are their best there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
A lot of games just don't straight up work on console that will work on PC.
Do you want to get Hour a Day Gamer, who can be found on Twitch?
Yeah, it used to be console, but now PC. It sounds like he's got his head on right.
A lot of the streamers, honestly, are going to be PC because it's so much easier for their ecosystem to record, to stream, to do all that kind of stuff.
You don't have to get that TV tuner card or
oh god, man, it is a pain. I got a Elgato right there, but then it's too much work, man. All right, next up is Matt Varish from VG Lore Podcast says console. Only because that's where my main source to play video games was my whole life. I love PCs, but I don't want to enter the world of struggling to constantly upgrade my hardware to handle new titles. That FOMO, man, will get you. And it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Grizzled.
Yeah, you really have to spend way too much if you want to future-proof your PC for the next 10 years. But I mean, I'd argue on the same hand, you're upgrading your console every 6 years.
Now, I will say recently with the 3060, 70s, and 80s, the pricing on those are fantastic, and that's also part of the reason why they're so hard to get.
Well, that and those daggum cryptocurrency miners.
Cryptocurrency is booming right now.
Oh, yeah.
I know I was telling Lord Kromdore the other day, I opened up a wallet of mine that had some Stellar Luminous in it, and it went from $12 to $120. It's like, why didn't I buy more of this?
Right.
All right, let's go ahead and you want to read a newer one, Hallowed by the Game, which can be found at HBTG_official, who is on Twitter, and Hallowed by the Game on YouTube.
So I was a PC gamer on MMOs for a little while, so I'm currently now exclusive to console and handheld gaming. But a major part of my gaming tastes come from PC gaming.
So a little bit of ambivalent. I was really expecting him to be. I didn't read the whole thing. I guess I should have read the whole thing because it was sneaky.
Right.
Sneaky Hallowed by the Game, putting in the other one in there. All right, I kind of like this. You want to get this one too from Project X Talk, which is a podcast.
Why choose? Console is obviously our preferred, but PC is great. Both have Game Pass.
Bingo. Game Pass, I think, is going to be a great equalizer in here. I'm curious if it will. Maybe we need a jousting tournament between, or we'll have to figure out another way to name it. Game Pass, Steam, and what's the other storefront that everybody likes now?
I mean, there's a couple different ones on PC. I mean, nothing is at that echelon of Steam, though. I mean, you got the Epic Game Store, you have Origin Game Store, you have the...
Those don't count.
Yeah.
Epic is what I was thinking of.
Epic, though.
Epic is, it's like more of an ecosystem than the other ones.
And you get a free game on it every week, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah, but Game Pass?
True.
Yeah. Well, granted, you don't necessarily get to keep some of them forever if you leave it. Well, I guess if you leave Epic, you don't get to keep them either, do you? Because they're tied to it.
Well, they're tied to your account, but
you don't have to pay a subscription. So.
Right.
Yeah, we'll do that in the future. That will definitely. All right, you want to get Nerds Amalgamated Podcast, and then after that, Undead to the End, Retro Gaming, which has a really cool, I believe it was Twitch. No, I'm sorry, Undead, I apologize. You do all sorts of retro gaming. Sorry, lots of people today.
Yeah, so Nerds Amalgamated says PC because of the customization and pricing.
And I love the very eloquent, verbose explanation from at Undead to the End. Twitter says
just PC.
Woo, PC. Yeah. That's it.
Nerds Amalgamated does bring up a good point on pricing, though. A lot of games really do get cheaper more often on PC with all the Steam sales. And
I will say, though, man, since Game Pass has been around, pricing is way crazy on console.
Yeah, I think they've looked at how successful it was for Steam, just doing random sales and whatnot. And
now I will say though, the Nintendo Switch,
no,
that Switch tax is still there and very much alive,
which is so weird because their stuff used to be cheap, like Skyward Sword came with a Wiimote. Yeah. Whereas now what are they called? The nunchucks, $60.
Oh yeah, they're expensive, man.
It's crazy.
We've complained in the past about the Switch's online storefront too because it's ridiculous. All right, looks like I got the last two over here. Oh no, there's more. Harley Bashaw at Riders Flood, who is the co-founder of Better or Worse Studio, says, "Console for me, but I'd love to get a PC someday." Next up, New Dad Gaming Podcast. says consoles feel more comfortable. I feel that. I feel like a gaming dad, a new one, would appreciate that. You want to get what Nerds Amalgamated sliced back with.
They feel more comfortable, but the problem is you cannot customize your console unless you want to void that warranty.
Now,
Great point.
When you say customize, I understand like you're talking about changing out, cards and stuff. However, you can take off the box on the Series X and put in RGB lights without.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen some people do that. I'm not saying you should.
Right.
Don't.
Right.
Lamer Travis said that I could do this.
I'm surprised.
When you break your console.
On the original Xbox, I remember when I was modding it, you'd have to open it up. Well, if you want to put a mod chip in, you'd have to open it up. And your warranty was voided the second you punctured the paper over opening that.
So they've determined that they can't do that anymore, I think is what's happened.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but they used to say they could, but now they've strayed away from those. Now there's a call for right to repair going on. Of course, I think that pops up every couple years, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next up is the Midwest Meltdown podcast says, Zach from Midwest Meltdown says, has been slowly playing a few PC games and would say they are for sure lean console, but PC is a nice break once in a while. So that is our lamers. Let me double check to make sure we don't have any more. I believe that is it this week on Twitter. So next up, we are going to move over to our Word document that I've stolen some things from Discord. So do you want, by the way, let me preface this because I forgot to mention this to Lord Kromdore. We try to be a safe for work podcast. So if any of these heathens curse, please replace the word with something else.
Gotcha.
I love y'all heathens. I love you Discorders.
Heathens are the best.
Yeah. Anyway, you want to get not an imposter Drew.
Yeah. Is it hard? PC. PC has almost every game out there. Better loading times, better visuals, and discounts galore. Pretty simple, to be honest. And you never have to buy a new PC to play newer games. That doesn't make sense. Just hardware upgrades occasionally. Oh, okay. I've had my PC for 4 years. I've only had to upgrade my RAM from 8 to 16 because of Google Chrome, which loves to eat RAM.
So, yeah, I will say that is true to some extent. However, I feel like the Series X, once again, is towing that line between a PC and a gaming console, where they've spent so much time making sure backwards compatibility just works. Okay. Next up, Tyson says, by the way, Tyson is the head of the Total Set. Over on the GW podcast says, GW Discord says, I like the relaxed, comfortable experience of console gaming. Even if you create a PC setup that replicates the console experience, you will still have to break from the experience to launch and exit games and such. So even when I had a gaming PC, I just connected a massive backlog and rarely played it. Ooh, them's fighting words.
Yeah, like I said, I have 500 games on my PC. I've probably played 100 of them.
All right, so you want to go ahead and do this is Shoulder from GW Discord. He changes his all the time what type of shoulder he is, but you want to go ahead and read through his, because I feel like his is a little bit on both sides here too.
Yeah, overall I prefer the experience of console gaming, but PC gaming has had major strides to mimic that same experience over the last 2 decades. Folks who PC gamed in the 90s and 2000s will know how painful it was sometimes to game on PC and the hoops required. Remember the days of trying to find a no CD crack? Nowadays, PCs are becoming more console-like, and consoles are becoming more PC-like, which in general has made both platforms more similar than they are different. And they got 2 rainbow emojis because of that.
Yeah, so that's a wrap. Ridiculously awesome post.
Okay.
We used to use over at the Nintendo Enthusiast forums. Do you also want to get his follow-up?
Yeah, as a minor follow-up to what I said, if I may, this is where I think the PC will become more sustainable in the future due to PC having a better balance between longevity, long-term support, and archival purposes. With the recent news of Sony canceling their digital storefronts on the PSP, Vita, and PS3. Where's the indefinite support for those generation of games? Will ROMs and emulation be the end result for the future of console games for archival purposes?
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. Actually, I think that's a pretty good question, though. I kind of am curious because Sony's doing a lot of things that I think people are not enjoying.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They try to control a lot of stuff going on. So does Nintendo, though.
Yeah.
Nintendo's pretty bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of shakeup going on right now. I'm curious to see what's going to happen to all these older games and the concepts of backwards compatibility.
It's kind of moving from, it's kind of the difference between that old corporative, I wouldn't say technology, but that old corporation way of things, of keeping everything closed, having 100% control, over moving towards a more open system.
Yeah. All right. So next up is Palf. Both complement my gaming life very well. Consoles are cheaper to get into right now, and console manufacturers make devices for gamers on the go. So, yeah, Pal from the Texas Discord, part of the Texas subreddit. Very, very true. I mean, I hop on both. Now, I will say a big part of why we have our Lord Kromdore here is because Reddit. We've had people let me know that they want to hear about PC gaming because that's mostly what we talk about. So, and finally, we have our other lamer jumping in. Mom says, honestly, in most ways, I feel like PC and console are apples and oranges. Yes, you can play many of the same games in both. These days, you can even cross-play with some games, which is very true. Me, Mom, and Gunslinger, which are both been on the podcast in the past, we go over to their house, and Gunslinger, I wish he would have replied, but he recently got a 3070, and we've all been playing games. She has a Series X, I have a Series X, and we literally have 3 massive TVs at their house that we play on.
Nice.
And we've been doing a lot of cross-play, or trying to find the cross-play that we can, because we've been playing Gears 5, and it's been really interesting. It works really well.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the entire setup, controls, graphics, and difficulty are completely different. It boils down to comfort and style of play. I personally prefer the ease and comfort of console play. Now, Gunslinger, I'm going to talk a little bit for you. I know you prefer PC. Like, he's all into the PC. I can't do the comfort. Like, he's got a really cool setup where he sits back in his chair and he makes it comfortable. But that movement, man, gets to me.
Yeah.
I can't do the keyboard. It also could be because at this point I got old man hands and I draw all the time.
Right.
So I'm going to get them, what is the carpals, the tunnels, all up in my hands soon enough.
Yeah, that's something that actually does worry me a little bit. So I always try to have proper ergonomic support when it comes to that type of thing.
Yeah.
Very important. I have a friend who had to have carpal tunnel syndrome because he's been a PC gamer since he was like a kid.
Oh,
he had to get surgery for his arms. Yeah, quite a while ago. But he's fine now. He still plays PC games.
All right, guys. So that is it for the episode. Hopefully you enjoyed our fancy new guest. Thank you, sir, Mr. Lord Kromdore, for coming to join the show this week. Hopefully,
thanks for having me.
Hopefully we'll have you back. Maybe we'll get you to come in monthly or something, and we'll or every couple months, or when there's a big PC gaming news, we could drag you back from your fancy kingdom upon high on a large mountaintop, covered in its RGB gloriousness.
Only if you can get past my guards.
Okay, if we get past the guards. What are the guards on your... I'm curious what the guards are. Are they robots?
Oh, I don't even know their names. All I do is just say, seize him.
Okay. Well, it's definitely a PC tower that he's in. Okay. Yeah. All right, guys, that is it for this week. Make sure, if you haven't yet, subscribe. Go tell a lamer that you know. Tell them about our podcast. Thank y'all for listening, and we will be back, hopefully with Rowdy 5000 also next week on the Lamer Gamers Podcast.